Broads Media.
Well. Should be fun. We're going to break it down. Before we do, hello, welcome. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up button as well. Thank you so much. You're the best in the world. You can take me on the road with you. Spotify, Apple Podcast. Search Sports Talk with Bros. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. It will mean the world. And lastly, if you're interested in the memberships here on YouTube, you will get access to Coffee with Bros live streams twice a week and access to our Discord channel, a 24/7 chat room with me and the whole entire community. All the information is down below in the description. Thank you guys all so much, and enjoy the show. You're telling me that I woke up this morning and I chugged a fat 32-ounce coffee thinking that it was possible. The Flyers jumped the Montreal Canadiens at 5. They make a trade with the Columbus Blue Jackets at 4. They go get Demi Dolph, and we pair him up with Mitchkov. That was a potential thought. And if it wasn't that, maybe you go get Lidstrom, a center who can play up and down the middle, and we desperately need a center, and you think maybe that's the outcome. And instead, they punt to the year 2025 by trading back one pick, acquiring an extra third in next year's draft, to reach for Jett Luchanko? I can't say I'm thrilled, because I could live with the idea of trading with Edmonton with the last pick in the first round, and if it is next year's draft, it's going to be better than 32 unless they win the Stanley Cup. So if that becomes 27, automatically better. If that becomes 25, automatically better. Unless someone who goes in that range, 32, 33, 34, 35, is a dog, and I don't know, if Sam O'Reilly, for example, becomes a ridiculous player in the NHL, even though that he projects to be almost exactly like Jett. And that was late in the first round with the last pick in the first round. And when you listen to what Sam O'Reilly can be, it's almost a spitting image of Jett, who they took at 13. They should have never traded back. They should have stayed where they were at 12, not made a deal with Minnesota, and go get Briere. Go get Briere. What are we doing? Denver? Stud D-man? And I got to go and look at what Alexander Appleyard said on Twitter, because he said if the Flyers are sold on their decor right now, and that's why maybe they went in a different direction, then they are dumb. He didn't use those words, I did. But I agree. What? There's long ways to go with Oliver Bonk still. There's long ways to go with Andre still. I don't know what Jamie Drysdale is. I like Cam York a lot, but the Sanheim stuff was more like a whoo, thank God that 8-year contract doesn't look like he's unplayable. At least he's serviceable, but he's not some pure, insane defenseman that I should no longer look in the draft because I'm thrilled with him. I mean, come on. Now, apparently they were drafting for need, but this is a rebuild, right, Danny? There's no such thing as being in a rebuild and drafting for need. You go best player available. Now, I'm sure that they wanted Dickinson. They wanted another defenseman from the OHL on the London Knights. Barkey, Bonk. Let's add another to the mix. And when he went at 11, the Flyers decided to move back. Now, I was texting Anthony Sanfilippo of Crossing Broad. He said he's going to put this in his story later on tonight, so I had some freedom to discuss it. But apparently they were willing to trade back even farther than just 13, but they were afraid that someone else would scoot in front of them and take Luchanko. Now, I don't know who. That might be them just trying to cover their ass, but I'd imagine if they did move way farther back in the draft to 16, which is what he's reporting, how much more compensation are you getting than just a third round for 2025? And I think maybe that could have been a reasonable risk, considering you reached to begin with. So I'm mad with the reach at 13. I thought they left value on the board. They did not maximize the high ceiling at that selection. There apparently was even a better center on the board at the time if you are going to try and force needing that position. See, I'm all in if you're drafting up and going to get someone like Lidstrom. If you're going to get someone like Dan, I'm feeling different about it. But this, I mean, speedy, okay, fast, okay, real concerns on if his scoring ability and his shot is NHL level. There were people who were putting together some stats on what he's done in junior so far, and they say that it generates out to a Nick Foligno or a Jordan Eberle, which isn't a bad career. Foligno's been hanging around for a while now. Good culture guy, good veteran presence, played a ton. But I feel that when I project him maxing out, he's a third line center, right? Maybe like a top end of a bottom six center, which isn't a disaster, but is that better than a top four defenseman that maybe you let go? And some deem could actually be a top D pairing guy. And if you look at the current state of the defense and feel you don't need to go there because you're comfortable, that would be an issue from an organizational philosophy standpoint. And I can't disagree with Alex Appleyard at all. I think he nailed it perfectly if that's their way of thinking about this. And it's a big if, but it's fair to wonder. Now, you could do what you did with the 2025 picks and go get William, for example, or someone else, an Yzerman, Cole Yzerman from the National Development Program. People are afraid that, well, he can't play defense. The guy's going to score 58 goals in 50 games, or that's what he's doing at the National Development Program. Okay, but he's like a legitimate insane scorer. Insane. Arguably the best goal scorer in the draft. He drops to 20 and goes to the New York Islanders, but the kid is no joke. You could still have the same mentality. I don't have to be as underwhelmed with the 13th or 12th if you don't trade it back that pick. I don't have to be as angry with that pick, and I can still be thrilled with the takeaways from tonight because I don't mind pushing things back. But here's where the pressure goes. The pressure goes, you can't be reaching for cats and us saying, you left value on the board in 2025 with these first round selections. Either I want to see you package it up mightily and shoot up the draft board to go get an automatic dude, right? If you're sitting around, I don't know, 12 or 13 again, you have 3 first round draft picks and you want to go shoot up to 4, you want to go shoot up to 5 to go get your Demidov, to go get, your Lidstroms, then by all means, then I will have no problems with that. And I could see them potentially doing it. But here's the thing. You have to. I'm not going to say, all right, I'm cool with you pushing it to 26, pushing it to 27. No! Next year, I want to be popping on this first day after or the night of the first draft day. That's what I want, and that's what I demand. And they're going to hide behind the excitement of Mitchkov, but I told you, I was not very happy with them telling us to cool the Jets because they're going to take a step backwards. And they are. This is them trying to tell you, hey, listen, we don't give a damn. We can just keep losing. I want to give a damn. I do. I want to give a damn still. I will hold them accountable. Look at them in the eyes and say, you better make the playoffs next year because I'm not taking steps backwards from where you were last year. You were in position. You had a disgusting losing streak against piss-poor teams and fell flat on your face. I need you to be better than that next season, even with the growth of Matvei Michkov, and I'm not letting you get away from that. I'm not letting you shake away from that, maneuver around that. Those are real expectations. They're logical expectations, and I'm going to hold you to it regardless on what you guys spew to the media because I don't agree with it, and I won't allow for you to have that mentality. So, 2025, I'm okay with it. I just better see answers. I better see real significant pieces in the Flyers organization if you are going to make us wait and you're going to have a collective group of the firepower. That's how I see it. All right. So what else is potential here? He mentions Suzuki as someone that he could maybe be, and he thinks his game can translate to a Suzuki. He's 5'11", super fast. And when you look at his team, maybe his team isn't very talented. So when you watch his highlights, you see his ability to drive the net, but then he makes a really great pass to someone who's along the half wall, or there's an odd man rush, and his speed obviously creates a lot of the defenseman making mistakes or defenseman going with him, opening up space. His speed kills for sure. And he can make plays happen in small areas and find some teammates and all that good stuff. But apparently he might struggle with scoring at the next level. He's only 17. It's only going to take time until we actually figure out exactly what player he is going to become, but I can definitely knock the overall approach that in a rebuild they left talent on the board in their eyes with a defenseman if they just strictly wanted to find a center. Yeah, you do need a center. You do. But if you're going to play the long game here, this was almost a necessity for you. It didn't have to be a necessity for you. There's no necessities if you're not worried about winning. It's grab the best talent. This isn't the NBA where, all right, we have Joel Embiid. Why are we drafting Nerlens Noel? Why are we drafting Jahlil Okafor? Why do we have 75 big men on an NBA roster? You can never have too many defensemen. You can never have too many forwards. You can never have too many goal scorers. You can never have too many. Is Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point and Steven Stamkos, is that too much? Is Victor Hedman, are they good? They don't ever have to look for a D-man again because they got Victor Hedman? And guess what? If one of these kids on our team becomes Victor Hedman, then I'd shut up. But we're lucky if any of these kids become 75% of Victor Hedman, and that's no knock on them. I'm just telling you what type of special talent Victor Hedman is. Just saying. Now, there was other Flyers news. They bought out Cam Atkinson. Makes sense. There's a little bit of a cap hit next year. They save about $3 million, a little bit more than $3 million in this year's cap space. I still think that Cam Atkinson is better than what was displayed last season. I know he's older and I know he's a smaller guy, and maybe you wonder if he is breaking down a bit and this is just the natural progression of getting up there in age and having the career that he has had. A-plus dude. I mean, you're just talking about like a real pro, which is always awesome to have around your locker room, especially when you're trying to build a version of character here and you're supposed to have this logo mean something and you're also technically not caring about winning. So you think that maybe they would actually be interested in Cam Atkinson's presence, but I'm totally cool with them looking the other way and creating more cap space. But what for? What are you doing with that cap space? I'd have to imagine that there is a cause and an effect. There is a thought process on what you want to do here. Look, before we go to the Anytime Hotline here in just 1 second, just to summarize, I don't despise what they did. Right now in the moment, was I hoping for more juice coming out of this first night? No doubt about it. I got sucked into beliefs that there would maybe be a Danny Briere on the prowl type of move, and it was on the record that they may slide back and they might trade back. He was going to be active, no doubt. Whether it was backwards, forwards, Danny Briere was definitely on the phone, and he was making moves, and he was calling GMs, and he was throwing things on the table, and there's no doubt that I thought he was going to make a serious push to land a star. And because I went all in thinking he might go get Demidov, he might go get a Russian and pair him together with our star in Matvei Michkov, and to walk out of it with Jett, you can see why I'm feeling the way that I am. But their overall thought is not a horrible one. They just have to execute it. They can't execute it in a way where we are constantly talking about Jett Luchanko's year after year. That won't fly for me. So here's 32 Thoughts, Elliot Friedman, talking about Danny Briere trying to make that jump over Montreal, which would have been great. And now they're all stoked because, well, look at what they're adding to their system in Demidov. But here's Elliot Friedman on the potential move.
The draft, I think, really starts here in terms of action. I think Columbus is the center of the universe when it comes to potentially moving down. And there are teams out there who believe that the Blue Jackets are motivated to do something big. They would like to make a splash. Now, Pierre LeBrun had the report about Philadelphia. I didn't hear everything Pierre said, but he's right that Philly was in there. What I heard was Columbus wanted something big. The 12, which would have to be included because that's Philly's current pick. Philly has the 32nd pick and potentially Colorado's number 1 from next year. And
that's from the Walker deal.
What's that?
That's from the Walker deal.
Yes. And what I heard was that was too much for Philly, but the two teams were expected to speak again today, Friday.
Okay, so there you have it. Essentially, they did the complete opposite of pushing all the chips on the table. And I'm not saying go all in, but you're utilizing a lot of assets to find a secondary Michkov type of elite, this is going to be fun level of prospect. And if that's essentially what they are going to do with the 2025 selection of picks, or are they just doing what they would have done anyway this year? Do you know what I'm saying? Because that might be what they end up in 2025 with, utilizing those first rounders and making a surge. Now, the seconds are lined up differently because of what Columbus is utilizing on Saturday afternoon with their second round pick. Now the Flyers have to wait. The third rounder that they acquired in this year's draft. So they're set up differently with the more total of package here. But I'm just saying. Then it will be, will that player end up better than Demidov? We'll find out. But anyway, I said we were going to the Anytime Hotline. Instead, we went to Elliot Friedman. And no, Elliot Friedman did not call into the Anytime Hotline, but we can't rule anything out. Let's go to Amadeo, though.
Happy draft day, Hunter. Happy draft day. Oh, my God, that was very anticlimactic. That was insanely anticlimactic. All that long wait for them to trade back one pick from 12 to 13, and then it picked a guy that no one expected, basically. They were all expecting him to go in the late part of the first round of the draft, like around the late teens, early 20s or something like that. Definitely a reach for Jett. Look, I'm not downing him at all. I think he does have NHL upside. I just kind of think basically what you tweeted out there, that they fell in love with the idea of getting center depth instead of picking best player available. And I think best player available would have been the defenseman from Denver. So they definitely left some meat and potatoes there on the on that draft board. And the fucking killer of it all was waiting the entirety to get to 32 to see what the hell they would finally pick with the second pick in the draft, in their first round of the draft. And then they traded for next year. I'm like, what the hell? Like, they better know that they're getting the Columbus second round pick, because Jesus Christ, I waited all that time for my time to be wasted. Very lukewarm, honestly. Very lukewarm. With all the trade rumors and all that stuff, very lukewarm. Very lukewarm.
That's a good way to describe it, lukewarm. I'm not ruling out Jett by any means. He could very well end up being a really good center. And if they know something that the experts don't know, if they know something that everyone who does the analysis for all these mock drafts, if they're wrong, I'm saying the majority of people, the collective unit of the ones that do the research and study the tape, which in every year there's a stud that slips and everybody wonders, how is that possible? Danny Briere could put his finger up and say, yo, motherfuckers, because you're not me, because you don't have our scouting department, because you're not doing the homework. And this kid is shooting through the juice, meaning every time we watch the NFL draft, there's the one quarterback that slides up all the ranks with 2 weeks to go leading into the draft because of all the hype. And Jett is potentially one of those style of prospects. So keep that in mind in your back pocket as well. But it is very possible that he's strong. I think he's got a floor that works at an NHL level. I think he's got a high floor but a low ceiling. Can he be a solid third liner for you? And it's not as if it's not important to have a third line true center. Not one of these centers who are really wings, but you throw them into the center role because you're desperate and you like, in theory, how they could be versatile, but it's not actually benefiting you as much as you would like. Scott Lawton. Scott Lawton. But I digress. Lukewarm. Good way to put it. He's got a lot of time to add to his body, to add to his frame. He's 5'11". I'm not a big, you got to be huge guy. All right? It's not like you got to draft a kid from the Boston Bruins who's, what, 6'7"? 6'6"? Huge son of a bitch. I'm not telling you got to go to that extent. You can survive in today's NHL being 5'11", 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2". The game has changed. So I will never rule a player out just due to size. I think if Johnny Gaudreau is an example of that, and there's plenty of a billion other examples of that, you can do it. I'm worried about the lack of offensive game. I was listening to Charlie O'Connor give his draft analysis on Sam O'Reilly only because I'm going to keep an eye on him. I mean, think of it this way. Edmonton thought so highly of Sam O'Reilly that they were willing to give away their first-round pick in next year's draft for him, and it's protected through maybe 12 picks or so. So that means if it's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, they're willing to give up a 15th pick in the first round for the 32nd of this year's draft. And the way Charlie O'Connor was explaining on maybe the attributes of Sam O'Reilly, he lacks the ability to have maybe the offensive upside, but he could be so good defensively that you could potentially, if he reaches his ceiling, be I'm going to match him with one of your best offensive stars level of center. I'm just saying. Imagine getting a defenseman from Denver with the 13th or 12th. You would have stayed at 12. You wouldn't have traded back. But that's what you get. Defenseman from Denver who put up a good amount of points. It's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be ridiculous. And then you get your center that you're in love with and clearly focused on from a position standpoint. Now, Amadeo, I know at the time of your call, you mentioned that maybe knowing that they're getting the Columbus pick for tomorrow, and that's why maybe they were a little bit more lenient to trade that second first. I wonder if they knew they weren't getting that Columbus pick. So they figured, all right, let's just get a whole wave for later then. Oh, what's that? You guys are rocking that sec. Okay, that's fine. Let's just go heavy with it. Let's lay it on thick 2025. So I bet you they did know, and that actually pushed them to even move everything farther back. All right, let's go to Sam. And I'll say this, Amadeo, real quick, my last thoughts on his call. You referenced how long it took to finally get to the end, and it was dragging on all for them just to trade back. Well, we got to see Christopher Sanchez throw a gem. At least we got that. Now, the game ended rather quickly because it was an earlier start in the 6 o'clock hour, so you still had to grind through picks 16, 17, 18, 19. It did go on a little long for my liking there, just for them to trade out. That's probably also why we feel lukewarm is in play. But Christopher Sanchez, my God, is that guy sick. All right, let's go to Sam.
What's up, bros? I know I sent you a few texts, but I just wanted to call in with this point that I'm not sure everybody else is going to make. So we just diverted one of our first-round picks to next year. We took a kid who's a bit of a reach, but he's only 17 years old. So if we're saying, hey, these draft picks, they're probably not going to be NHL ready in 4 years, the picks next year, 4 years from now.
Sure.
The kid that we just took is, turning 18, so he's not going to be great for another 4 years. So tell me, why should we sign Travis Konechny to an 8-year deal, a 6, 7, 8-year deal? In 4 years, those kids are finally going to be NHL ready. In 4 years, Michkov will be 23. That's the time that we want to spend that money. We don't want to have a 31-year-old in Travis Konechny in 4 years that we're overpaying. So if we're really diverting picks for the future, then maybe we're not going to be making big signings until the future.
Valid point. Very valid point, Sam. My brain did not go there today. I was with you until the end on why. So your overall premise, I think, is interesting and maybe deserves to get peeled back on a deeper level. With that said, just from a general consensus here, because, well, I'm the one talking, and I guess a general consensus would be majority of people, and I'm one person talking to myself. I don't know if I butchered that, but anyway. When you have these young kids playing, and the prospects we're discussing now is 22, 23, 24 instead of 18, 19, 20, you still need a 31-year-old. You still need pros on your team. You still need veterans, and 31 isn't 38. So there's going to be high-paid play. You're not going to have a roster of 0 veterans, and there's nobody making some version of money on your roster. There's going to be veterans with money tied to their names when these kids are just getting their NHL career started. And you want that. You want that. So why would you want a 31-year-old Konechny? Because that's very valuable, and you still need to compete. I want to have these kids come in the league and there be expectations to actually win some hockey games. Not necessarily go win the Stanley Cup first year, second year type of deal, but you got to show up to work every day. You have to have a real chance to actually go somewhere, have something to win about. I don't want it to be go to the rink every day, get beat up 8-1, go lose 7-1. I want you to actually have some sort of substance to the room. I want you to have someone who can score the puck and score 30 goals and find a way to be creative on the power play. When you're at practice every day, you get to lean on a Travis Konechny. And at the time of these guys hitting the draft, or these kids that are drafted, finally hitting the league, the cap hit's going to be even higher. So that $8.5 million cap hit in 4 seasons could still be deemed as a reasonable number for Travis Konechny. There is truth to that, as much as sometimes I feel others blow it way too far out of proportion. There is truth to it. You're going to need vets. But if they are so in on let's have a billion darts to chuck at the dartboard, and that's our clear philosophy, we are going to overwhelm the league with an obnoxious amount, and we are going to be so loaded, then maybe I'm more willing to hear out Travis Konechny trade packages. But I'm not just handing him away for nothing. I'm not just giving him away for a little bit. It would have to be a serious, substantial package where I'm blown away by it. Or Even fair competition. I would do it for fair compensation if you're telling me the blueprint is let's go snag 1 billion darts. You could talk me into it. You just have to give me something that I feel is reasonable to get back in return on losing a 30-goal scorer. Because he does bring an element to this team that's extremely important. I remember a lot of post-game shows last year saying, wow, Travis Konechny is on a run of star level. So maybe 20 games of being a star. Not McDavid, not that, but star. And I mean, there is a role for that on NHL teams, and it is important to have that. All right. Let's take another call here.
Hey, bros. If you don't mind, I'm calling about the Flyers draft. And I would just like to do a little impression of you and how I feel about how the Flyers did in this draft.
Okay. Jett Luchanko, whoever the hell that guy is, what a joke he is. I mean, clearly they picked somebody nobody even thought of this entire week. And then the Islanders, who are in the Metro, they take Eisenman, who the Flyers clearly wanted. They are still the same team. Hextall did this, trading back all their picks. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. I just had enough. It's so stupid. They're such a dumb, unserious franchise.
Now, did I sound like that? You guys tell me. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you all on the next.